Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Mike Madarani. Sarah?
Hi, everybody. Sarah Halsey.
And I'm Antonio Mayo.
And we are ready for another surprise question from Sarah.
All right, another M365 Voice question. Ready? Oh, I like this one. Which Microsoft 365 mobile apps do you use most and why?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's a cool.
That's a cool one. Let's take a quick round robin poll. Mike, which are your top 3 most used Microsoft 365 apps?
OneDrive. I live in OneDrive a lot, and the new Office app as well. SharePoint, so and so. So those are, so if we go with the ratings where I use the most, those OneDrive, Office, and SharePoint.
Okay, Antonio, how about you?
So my most used one would be the Office 365 admin mobile app. I like that one. Be able to do admin on the road is fun and kind of cool. Then I would say it's the OneDrive app, and then I would say the OneNote app.
Oh.
I don't know if that counts in this question, but that's those would be my 3 most used apps.
Interesting. So this is going to be interesting. So 2 of my 3 haven't even been mentioned yet, but the 3 apps that I use most on the go is Microsoft Teams, number 1. The Outlook mobile app I still use because I still get an awful lot of email. And then I would say that the third one is, I like the Power Automate mobile app, actually, because I like the push button flows out there. So I'm actually going to say, isn't it interesting that most of us had very unique mobile apps that we use in the space?
And actually, I'm going to take it back because I completely forgot Teams and Outlook. So if I can come back to the question, the app that I actually use the most would be Outlook. Then I think it would be a toss-up between Teams and the Office 365 admin, and then it'd be OneDrive. And then OneNote, a quick follow-up.
Yes.
What about Teams?
Same here. I did not count them as apps for some reason. So if we do another round, it would be for me Outlook first, and then it's a toss between Teams and OneDrive. Which one is second? Which one is third? So it might be second and third, like really close to each other. I just also for the Teams because, oh, go ahead.
Oh, this is a really interesting question, because if we were going to pose this if people were going to ask us this question as they were looking at the mobile landscape in M365 and deciding on a path, of course, you're going to tell them to go with Outlook first, right? It's really the gateway mobile app you have to have. Once you're authenticated using the Outlook mobile app, you can easily install and then authenticate to the other mobile apps using the same tenant account, right? But if we go based on usability, now that might be a very different answer that is based much more on the user and what they typically use the most. Because you could find, especially companies that have a lot of mobile workers, that they could heavily use things like the Power Apps mobile app to be able to fill out Power Apps based forms. And that might be the app that they integrate with the most. Yep. Me, I'm a solution builder. So for me, the Power Automate mobile app is great. Yep. But let's be honest, I use it to edit workflows on the go, create new workflows, and kickstart workflows using the button start option. What do you think from a consumption perspective at organizations the most popular apps would be?
So I still see a lot of organizations, although I don't use it, and I don't know if I recommend it that much. I see a lot of organizations ask about the SharePoint mobile app. If they need to push that out to their users because they're becoming or they are heavy SharePoint Online modern users, right? They're very heavy users of SharePoint Online mobile sites, and they ask, do I need to push out the mobile app? Like, what do you think about the SharePoint mobile app? And my answer to that is always, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with this, but I found that the modern experience is so good on mobile devices just from the default browsers that I find less and less of a need for the SharePoint mobile app. Like, it's easier for people to just bring up your mobile browser, go to on your iPhone or Android device, go to, log into Office 365, go to SharePoint, and your sites behave just as if you're in the mobile app, or at least close to it. I know there's differences, but the experience is good enough that we don't tend to worry about the mobile app anymore. What do you guys think about it? I know that's a little bit different than your question, Sarah, but
yeah. The Teams app is in my world right now is the most used app with clients. Sometimes it's related if they have to be on VPN and they have to actually use the app on the desktop. The performance of the network on their mobile devices is much better from a network bandwidth than it is on the actual desktop. So the Teams app consumption is the most used right now in my world with my clients.
And Sarah, sorry, to your question about usability, I think you were asking from a usability perspective, how would people respond to that, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when I do a lot of training as part of my regular job, and I'm training people regularly on a variety of products within the M365 space. But whenever I teach a OneDrive class, I'm always going through and giving demos of OneDrive and the browser experience, right, and the sync client experience. But then I actually go in and do a demo of the OneDrive mobile app. And that's usually what I get the most comments on. People are so impressed. It's like, wow, how'd you do a demo from, your phone using the OneDrive mobile app? And people don't necessarily think, even if they use OneDrive every day at work, they don't think about going to it on their mobile app. And I love it. And I always give the example that if it's at night or I've left my desk and I'm out running errands or doing something away from my desk, and I get a text message or a Teams chat message about updating a presentation that I'm delivering in the morning, I love being able to use my OneDrive mobile app to go in and edit the file, share the file, do whatever I need to do. So I don't have to boot up my work computer, log into VPN, do all of those things. It saves me a lot of time. And most people that I talk to who are using OneDrive don't necessarily aren't aware of that capability or don't think about it that way. They would go and boot up their work computer, connect to the network, and do things.
Yeah, very true.
That's
when
true.
I long ago, pre-COVID and travel, my two best friends were Outlook and the OneDrive app. The ability to go and make changes on the fly, or send a document, or save a document from an attached email into OneDrive.
Yeah,
is really very, very helpful. And for expenses, well, now we can use it with the Office 365 app, where you can scan your expenses when you are on the road. But that was still, you have the camera capture for OneDrive is pretty cool.
that's true. Yeah, I would say from a usability perspective, it would probably be a combination of Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive, or probably from a usability perspective that, I don't know if usability is the right word for what I'm trying to say, but I think they're the most useful apps for people on the go, just from a general collaboration standpoint, because you can get at your emails, you can get at your conversations and communicate with your team, and you can get at your files. I used to use the Power Automate one a lot, and I was really impressed with how robust it was on the mobile device. Like, you could create flows fully on the mobile device, you could do quite a bit on the mobile device with that, and then being able to launch the button flows was really, really useful.
So let me turn this in an entirely different direction. If we're not talking about organizational use and we talk about personal use, so in our personal lives and in our families, interestingly enough, my answer would change as to the apps that I use the most frequently. And I'm interested in what you all look at. And I'm going to say for myself, I use the OneDrive mobile app personally. It's where I back up all of my cell phone photos to. So I do a lot on my OneDrive mobile app. I also tend to use the OneNote mobile app all the time for personal notes. I use it for planning vacations with the extended family. That's where we put all of our notes. I use it whenever I'm planning a big home project, so a home remodeling project. That's where I go out when I'm looking at lighting, or I'm going and looking online for carpet samples. I will go and take pictures and post things out into OneNote. How about for the two of you? Where do you tend to put things, or what do you tend to use personally outside of work?
I've been using the OneDrive. So same thing. So OneDrive is highly used in my world from a personal perspective. Exactly for the same reason, my pictures automatically from my iPhone go directly to OneDrive. OneNote, I started using it quite a bit for personal, exactly for the same reason, but I haven't used it in a while. Just, I don't know, it dropped, and I haven't put a lot of attention towards it when it comes to personal space.
So for me, I would say something similar. So OneDrive, definitely for backing up my photos. I back them up to a OneDrive consumer account though, because I have OneDrive on my kids' phones connected to the same OneDrive consumer account. So we're all backing up photos to that same OneDrive location. And again, OneDrive consumer, not OneDrive for business. So that's a huge one personally. I still use the Outlook mobile app for my personal email. So I have both my work email and my personal email in there. So I use that heavily on a personal basis. And then, yeah, OneNote as well, just for taking notes on the go. Personal to-do lists. I don't use the to-do mobile app much for kind of a personal reason. I use more OneNote for that. My issue with the to-do app, I don't know if you guys find the same thing or have thoughts on it. I think it's good from just a regular to-do app perspective, but I was a big Wunderlist user before. And I loved it when Microsoft bought Wunderlist, and I cried when Microsoft killed Wunderlist. And to-do just doesn't provide the same user experience. I found Wunderlist was just a little bit more refined. So I just haven't had a chance. I just haven't gotten into it. How about yourselves?
I don't use it much. I don't use the to-do at all, actually. I'm still old school, personal or work-wise. I just flag items to be completed. Yeah. So the task in my Outlook is the go-to for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm very antique in my methodology. I don't tend to use to-do. I still use Outlook tasks because for work, not personally, but for work, I'm in Outlook every day. And I actually love the calendar view of my week. It's where I spend most of my time in Outlook. I can see my work week calendar, and I can see all of my Outlook tasks going straight across the bottom of my screen. That's kind of how I manage my day-to-day work.
I use Outlook tasks as well. And you guys know Outlook tasks will sync to to-do, right?
Right. Correct.
The problem I have with that sync is, this is going to sound silly, the order in which I have the Outlook tasks, like the one at the top, are the higher priority than the one at the bottom. And the to-do app doesn't maintain the order. So I'm like, okay, I can see the tasks are all jumbled. I
am so with you because it's very, my favorite word, discombobulating, because yes. I will either order them in order of priority or in chronological order, because sometimes I'll have tasks that relate to my meetings and I don't want to see the stuff for a 4 p.m. meeting above the stuff from an 8 a.m. meeting. So exactly. I will often arrange those tasks in a way so that the ones that are important for me to look at first are above the fold. Yeah. And it drives me nuts when I go somewhere else and they're out of order.
Yeah, exactly. Do either of you use the Power Apps mobile app very much, or do you know people that do?
I don't at all. I've played with it when they first launched it, and I stopped using it.
Okay. Sarah, same?
No, I think that for me, whenever I've heard of people using the Power Apps mobile app, it's mostly because from an organizational perspective, they've created Power Apps and then people are using it to actually complete. One of the things that I have used it for in a work setting is, when we have held in-person events before. So for example, a walk-up help center from an employee tech experience perspective, where people can just walk up and get help with issues with their laptop or Microsoft 365 questions. We had used Power Apps to be able to have a check-in form, to be able to capture what did you come in for, what's your name, so that we could get some metrics on who was there. And we used to have them do that using iPads or tablets to check in and use but that's the most frequent use for me.
I've seen rolling Power Apps to mobile devices and I tried this once, where another Microsoft person suggested this to me, where on your mobile device you can actually create a shortcut that'll launch the Power App, as opposed to having to go to the Power Apps app and then launch your Power App. Yeah. And I find that's a neat usage. Like if you're going to build an organizational Power App and you want to roll it out to your organization for people to use on their mobile devices, I find it's a little smoother if you can put an icon on the mobile device itself to launch the app, as opposed to have to go into Power Apps and then launch in there. Just it feels like this extra step and not as seamless of an experience.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
What about the Yammer app? We haven't talked about it.
Good question.
I use it.
You're the big Yammer.
I don't use it, but Sarah, you are the
big Yammer.
I'm the Yammer. I'm the Yammer. So I am in Yammer all day, every day from a work perspective. I love it. But I rarely am on the Yammer mobile app, or if I am, it's more for my personal, or even we use Yammer with Microsoft to be able to connect with Microsoft product team members or an MVP Yammer network. For work, I don't tend to check Yammer as much on the go. And I can't say why that is, other than I tend to have it open as I'm working during the day, just on one of my many monitors that I work off of. And if I'm away from my desk, usually I'm checking on the things that are the highest pulse beat. So I'll be checking on things like Teams or my email. And I just assume that I'll get back to those Yammer things when I get back to my desk.
Okay. Yeah, I have similar experience as well. I just use it when I want to check some communications with Microsoft. But I'm not on it on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same. I unfortunately find it just another thing to check, right? Between checking work email and personal email and Twitter and Facebook and a couple other things, Yammer kind of piles on. And you know, it's not that I dislike it. It's just it's another thing to check. I find I don't really use Yammer on my mobile device very much. I'll use it more when it's incorporated into other solutions like a web part on a SharePoint page or maybe a tab in a theme. Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Very, very good. So we've talked about quite a bit of apps, and I love the diversity in the use of the apps and the consumptions. Go ahead.
So can I ask
more?
Before we close, could we do one more round robin around, let's say, what we think are the most useful Microsoft mobile apps from a work perspective? Because Sarah, you introduced both the work and the personal perspective.
Right.
It's both relevant from a work perspective, though. After that discussion, what do we think are the most relevant or useful Microsoft mobile apps?
So for me, definitely Teams is the one that I am in the most. I think it's the one that's the most useful. It can also potentially be the most dangerous one. And I say that only because Teams, the mobile app, is very good and complement to Microsoft. It's very good. It will alert me when there is a chat or a channel message from any of the teams that I am involved in, on any of the tenants that I'm involved in. I have to make sure before I leave to go on vacation from work that I sign out of Teams in that one, because otherwise I will see those messages coming through, and it does such a good job of alerting me that I don't want to receive those alerts if I'm trying to take a few days off of work. So for me, it's Teams.
I would say Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive.
I think I would say the same. Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive. After that discussion, after thinking about it a bit more, that feels like where I would be most productive.
All right.
Awesome.
Good question.
Good question. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and hopefully you have enjoyed our personal views on it, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.